Hey there, we are talking about how to get you and your team to become a decision making machine. So, if you are brand spanking new, welcome. My name is Stacey Tushel. I am the founder of the Foot Traffic Formula and Well Oiled Operations, helping get more customers through the door, more profit in your pocket, and more happiness in your home. And today is a really important topic. We've got to get you making decisions. And we've got to get you making decisions as fast as possible, but as smart as possible as well, right? I don't want you thinking this is something where you have to hurry. I want you to be able to move fast, but feel really good about the decisions you are making. We also want to make sure that we are getting your team on board as well, right? I hear all the time, my team, oftentimes it's that they're not ready to let go of control and they're becoming the bottleneck for the team's autonomy. And here's what I'll tell you as well. As they start to say, like, my team can't make decisions without me, and I have big air quotes when it comes to that, here's why. It's not that they can't do it, it's that you're allowing them to do it. And this week, as you're much easier to let go of control when you've gone through a specific decision making process and you're able to teach your team to do the same thing and set them up for success. So, today we're talking about how to overcome indecision and empower your team. There is a free PDF that's going to go along with today's training. Feel free to comment below, decide, or message me on Instagram if you're listening on the podcast. And message me there on Instagram, just the word decide, and I'm going to send it to you. If you aren't someone who is quick to make decisions yourself, the team will observe that and they will follow your lead. You, the CEO, need to become better at making decisions. Now, one of the processes we teach inside of Well Oiled Operations is what we call the same pager. We have a one-page document that gets you crystal clear on where you're going. So you can make decisions a whole lot easier when you can just ask yourself, does this get me closer to what we wrote? Like, can I open up my same pager, look at this new shiny object I was just approached with, and ask myself, like, does that shiny object get me closer? Right. And that's how you start to really let go of things that are just shiny objects and they're not actually helpful. Decision making becomes super simple, right? And you can start to say, is this the next best thing for me? So comment the word decide and we will get that over to you. Okay. Next, you think your team maybe isn't capable of making decisions, or when they do, you question it and you wonder why they did what they did. Now, especially when you're considering bringing a team into a leadership role, a team member into leadership role, and you're both unsure that they, the new person, can make decisions according to, let's say, your standards or expectations, right? The prompts I'm suggesting here are helpful in reflecting on what stepping into that role would actually mean for you in the business and will empower you both to make decisions. So, number one, what does your gut say? There's a reason it's called a gut instinct. Okay. Now, when one of my powerhouses are maybe in the middle of making a decision and they just don't know, like, they've got option A, they've got option B, I'll always say, okay, let's say you had to make up your mind right now. Like, you had to pick, like, there was a timeline, a deadline, right? I always say, like, what would you do? And by making them move faster, it allows them to look internally, right? And do what's best for them. Sometimes we are indecisive because we think someone else knows better than us, right? I see this a lot as a coach. A client waits until they can speak to me, until my next coaching call with them, right? Before making a decision, just to make sure I agree with it, right? And I always remind them, you know what's best for your business, okay? Now, there is a deep connection between our gut and our minds, and you can teach your team members to listen to themselves as well. I want to ask you, what do you think your indecisiveness has already cost you or is currently costing you? Going back and forth over a decision that it mentally drains you, right? And there's a good chance that putting off a certain decision can be a costly one, right? Financially. So you've got to be careful, especially in the role as CEO or as your team starts to move up to leadership, they need to be making decisions without you. All right. Procrastinating on allowing your team members to take your responsibility is costing you both time and money. So, what needs to happen in order to make a decision? Okay. This is where we get to the bulk of the info. So get out your pen if you haven't already. What systems need to be in place and what strategies need to be clarified in order to make the decision that move everyone forward? If you don't have company values, that is one of the first things I would do when I'm having somebody else make decisions for me, right? Because when you have company values in place, people can look at that as a guide, as a roadmap to say, would this make sense with what we value? Right? What is most important to the company? Now, if somebody comes to you with a question, the first thing I want you thinking about is, do we have a system for this? If the answer is yes, don't answer. This is hard. Don't answer. Say, hey, this system is located here. I want you to go check it out. Right? I want you to have them go reference the system. Because if you just say, if you're like, yes, there's a system, but here you go, you're training them to do that every single time. If the answer is no, we don't have a system, great. Now you need to either, there's two options. You can either have them create it and approve it, you approve it, or you can create it yourself and give it to them to go and to do and implement. Two options, right? So depending on if it's a yes or a no, you know what to do from there. In well-oiled operations, we teach that any frustration in your business is just a lack of a system. I'm going to say that again. Any frustration in your business right now, this past week, this past month, this past year, think of a frustration that you've had in your business. It is because of a lack of a system. Okay. Now, for our well oiled mastery students, we are going to be doing all summer long a summer school session where we're covering the most important systems in each department. June is all on sold out systems. So it's all about fulfillment. July is well oiled marketing machine. So all of our marketing and sales systems we're putting in here. And then in August, it's operations optimization. So behind the scenes, all the systems you don't really see, but once you start to go, okay, this is how everything starts to flow together, right? So summer is the perfect time to systematize your business. Now, as we approach summer, I want you to start thinking about what hasn't worked for you in Q1 and then the start of Q2. What hasn't worked? Why hasn't it worked? What has been going wrong? What has been a frustration? Start jotting it all down and then ask yourself, do I have a system for this? And pretty soon you're going to go, this is why I'm frustrated. This is why nothing's working. This is why I'm always putting out fires. How many of you feel like you are always putting out fires, right? So, what we want to start to do is recognize this frustration. It's okay that you're frustrated in the moment, but be hopeful and excited in the moment that there is more for you to start to implement, right? So, like I said, summer is the perfect time to do this, right? This is the time when a lot of people have a little bit of extra time, right? To really be thinking about systematizing and getting ready to wrap up the year strong. Now, indecision is costing your business growth, right? That is the biggest thing I want you to realize. It is literally slowing down your business because the longer you take to put something in action, right? The longer you have to wait for that growth. Systems becomes, oh, you don't see my slides, sorry. Systems become rhythms and routines you no longer have to think about. Now I just ate lunch, or I should, well, it was lunch for me, but I break my fast. So every day I have two options for lunch. Now this might sound crazy to you. This is not a nutrition training, but I just want you to hear me out into why I do this. Okay. So I eat two things for lunch. I should say I get to pick from two things every day. I make myself either like eggs and these like breakfast sausages and a half avocado, or I make myself these overnight oats with protein mixed in. Okay. Every single day, I pick from one of those two things. That might sound super boring. This is not the point of it. Okay. My point is, how often do you think I eat garbage for lunch? Like where you just open the fridge and you're like, what do I have? What can I make? Like, how many of you have done that? I used to do that until I did this system, right? And that's what this is. It's a system that never fails because it's two things I really like to eat. And I decide which one am I feeling today? And then I eat that thing. And then because it's a system, right? I don't have decision fatigue. I don't go, oh no, I don't have anything to eat because I'm always ordering those things to have in my refrigerator, right? So, what you've got to start to do is recognize how you can make a decision one time and then turn that decision into a system so it keeps working even when you aren't the person to work it. Okay. So, the question I want to ask for you today: what system will you put in place today? Or at least recognize that this is the first system you want to put in place, right? And if you're inside of our Well Oiled Mastery program, get ready for summer school because we're kicking off in less than 2 weeks. And I cannot wait to help you systematize your business. Now, if you just jumped on, or you haven't done this yet, don't forget to comment the word decide. This is basically some prompts of how I make a decision faster. And what's going to happen is you're going to start to maybe work through some of these things, and it's going to take you a little bit of time. But eventually, you're going to know how to quickly run through this decision and figure out if you need to do this or not, right? So put the word decide. If you're listening on the podcast, DM me on Instagram the word decide, and I'm going to send that over to you. This is one of those templates that I would love for you to save, like whether it's on your desktop or someplace, maybe you print it. Keep it someplace handy, especially if you feel that you are taking a little bit longer than you want to make a decision. This is also a great tool to give to other people on your leadership team or your right hand or an assistant, right? Somebody that you are trying to help learn how to make decisions like you. Okay. Another thing I want to share with you too before we wrap up is the more you can talk out loud how you made that decision, the more you'll see how people are starting to, or I should say, the more your team will see how your brain is thinking and how you came to that decision. All right. So, one of the things that I thought was going to be very complicated to teach my assistant was how to book airfare for me. I'm like, I don't know. Like sometimes it's this and sometimes it's that. And sometimes I'm going in super early in the morning and sometimes I want to be able to sleep in a little bit. And I don't know. I just feel like there's so many options and I don't think I'm going to be able to teach this. And all I did was record, I just loomed a video of me booking my airfare and talking out loud, saying things like, well, I'm in the middle of a travel season and I really don't want to be gone from my children too long. So because of that, I'm going to be in and out as fast as possible, right? And all of a sudden she hears, okay, so what does Stacy's travel season look like? Is she been home this whole time? Has it been 3 months at home? So she may want to go a longer time to experience the whole thing, or is she going to be in and out? Or you see what I'm saying? When you start to talk out loud how your brain is thinking, you are starting to realize that anybody on your team will eventually learn how to make decisions just like you. So one of the things I've seen with in our coaching business specifically is I have a lot of our team members on my calls watching me coach. And what happens is when I go to watch some of their calls, in the beginning, they start to say things like, well, Stacy would tell you, right? Or Stacy would say, because they've watched me do it so many times, they're like, oh, I know exactly what Stacy would say to you, right? And then pretty soon they drop the Stacy would say. And they're like, well, we do it like this. Or we would, you just see what I'm saying? Pretty soon they lose the identity of it's Stacy's idea. And it's so ingrained in them that it's how they do things here. So this is a step-by-step progression. All right. I am going to switch over and do an on-air coaching call with one of our powerhouses. So stick around for that if you want to watch. I always tell people, when somebody asks something specific about their business, even if you're nothing like their business, you don't need anything with this right now. It's always a tool you can put in your tool belt for later. We are always getting such great comments about on-air coaching because people say, okay, I wouldn't even have thought to ask that question. But now because this person just did, I'm prepared and ready for whatever the next step is. All right, let's do it. Amy, bringing you on. Oh, let me get us side by side. Amy, so excited to have you here. I would love for you to share really quickly just about your business before we jump in and I start answering your questions.
Yeah, sure. So I have a couple of them, Stacey, but I'm a multi-business entrepreneur, children's book author, mom to 3 little boys, and military spouse. So I create communities of active and healthy kids worldwide. So my primary business, Tiny Troop Soccer, it's a developmental soccer program in 17 states and overseas in a couple countries that near military installations, but it's open to all kids.
Love it. All right, Amy, what are your questions for me today?
Yeah, I have a few of them. So
Yeah.
you're just talking about systems, Stacy,
Okay.
and so we need a launch system. So
Okay.
I know in a lot of online businesses, you guys do launches every couple of months or every
Yeah.
month for different products. With ours, we have registration that is open on a monthly basis,
Okay.
and we don't really have a launch system for
Okay.
that. So I was wondering if you had any ideas for that.
Yes. Okay. So anytime you do something on a recurring basis, right?
Mhm.
It's not just a one-time thing.
Right.
Always, always document. So the way that you first get started. So when is your next one coming up?
It starts, well, we're in one right now,
Okay, you're
actually,
in
but
it.
the next
Okay.
one starts on the 15th.
Perfect. So you're in it. So
Mhm.
right now, as you're in it, write down everything you already did do and everything you still want to do. Okay. It's as simple as that, of just like a first draft. And it's actually kind of nice that you are in it because your memory will be really fresh on
Yeah.
what you have been doing. Now, there might be some things you missed because it wasn't written down and you wanted to do it, but you just forgot. So
Right.
add that in, right?
Okay.
So what's going to happen is as this ends, I want you to reflect on like what worked, what didn't, what do you want to do differently for next time? Okay. And you'll craft that system and you'll start to put dates and like deadlines or timelines on it in the order you want it to be done. So sometimes I do something like with something that's recurring like this, it might say 30 days out, 2 weeks out, 1 week out, 2 days before launch, right? Like, do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And because I don't have to have dates, I'm not changing it from May to June to July. It's just like, no, no, no.
Mhm.
We've got it. We were going to reverse engineer, right? And you could print this off every single month. That's a checklist. You could keep it right inside your project management board. Depends on how you work best. Okay. But the nice thing is it's rinse and repeat. And every month, part of that, like we call it a debrief, is asking yourself, like, is there anything we need to change for next time? What worked? What didn't? What are we changing? And you immediately go to that system while it's fresh in your head and you tweak it. Okay.
Perfect.
Now, as you start to do that, like in the beginning, it's just like you've got it written down, right? But
Yeah. Yeah.
as you rinse and repeat, 6 months in, 6 months later, you're going to go, whoa, this is a real system and it's good and it's refined. And if you send out certain emails or you send out certain text messages or however you're doing this,
Mhm.
you can start to rinse and repeat those. Now, you're doing it monthly. So you may not do the exact same emails next month. But what you
Right.
can ask yourself is how big of a rotation do I need? So let's say you're not going to send out the exact same emails next month, but you feel like every 4 months you could repeat and they probably wouldn't remember.
Okay.
So all you need to do is come up with 4 variations. And 4 months from now, you've got a year's worth of those emails because you can rinse and repeat email number 4 again when it's number
Mhm.
8. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Totally.
Any follow up questions on that specific question?
No, I
Okay.
think we're
How
good to
does
go.
that
Thanks
feel?
for that. Yeah. So the next one, I have an assistant director that I
Yeah.
hired last fall, and she's been great getting things
Yeah.
off of my plate. But I've really been struggling with KPIs for her
Okay.
because I'm looking at it as really it's making sure everyone else is meeting their KPIs.
Yeah.
And so, is that her KPI or what's her actual KPIs?
Yeah, so it absolutely could be. It could be measuring that whether like its projects are being completed every week, right? So one of Sarah's like KPIs, let's say,
Mhm.
is we have a weekly task on our project management system. And she knows her goal is that we are at a 90% completion rate on a weekly basis. Okay. If it would start to drop below 90%,
Mhm.
she would know, okay, and who is it? Who do we need to go talk to, right? There might be one person or there might be a couple people that we've got to speak to. So you
Okay.
absolutely could have like a certain percentage completion rate or like KPIs are being filled out. Like even something as simple as that. Like we've gone to our KPI meeting and I'm like, where is this person's KPIs? Like, why are they not listed there? Right. So it could be anything like that as well.
Okay.
Is she in charge of anything to do with like upselling, renewing? Like, is there anything financially involved in her position?
The only thing we just introduced was making sure the expense ratio was at a certain rate.
Oh,
So
perfect.
she's going to track that, which includes time,
Yeah.
includes equipment we're buying, all sorts of stuff.
Okay, so that could be a KPI. And then on that KPI, list what you want it to be. So when you start to see on a weekly basis the number, you can go, well, that's what we're shooting for, but here's what's happening. And that's what the trend is going.
Okay.
Yeah, I love it. Anything
Okay,
else?
great. Yeah. So company values, you were speaking about
Yeah.
that. So I feel like we have a set of internal ones, like for
Okay.
admin, and then I'm not sure if they're necessarily applicable or we just need to add more for our coaching staff.
Okay.
So I don't know if it makes sense to have two sets. So integrity, resourcefulness, and growth driven. So those might
Okay.
sound familiar to you,
Yeah.
but they were personalized to us. That's what we're internal. And I do feel like that applies to our coaches, but
Yeah.
I also want them to have the, like charismatic personality and different things like that.
Got it.
So I don't know if those are just values of coaches or personality characteristics.
Yeah.
Or if that's actually value to say we need to make sure we're exuding this, and this is what we want people to think of when we.
Yeah. Okay. So
Of
one thing you could maybe do is something about like a 5-star customer experience.
Okay.
Because think about that. In the admin side, that definitely plays a part, right? But then with coaches, what it looks like to them is obvious. Like every time I'm actually not going to say where this is, but my kids go someplace and I'm like, their front desk is awful, like literally awful. Like they don't smile.
Yeah.
They're not helpful. Like I just feel like I'm bothering them when I go up there. Right. And so there's definitely something for like the people working. There's something for the people in the classroom or the soccer field. So I actually think that if that is something that's really, really important, put that with everybody.
Okay.
Yeah. I just gave a task to my team this week and I said, I want to challenge you on figuring out a solution for this, but it cannot impact our customer experience. Like it's something that everybody needs to be thinking about.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, cool. Next question. Do you have one more?
I do. I'm just waiting until you cut me off. So how do you determine if an employee is making their wage back and adding on to that? So say you have a role like administrative assistant.
Yeah.
How do you quantify that?
And maybe you don't want to say this, but like I would think about their KPIs.
Okay.
Okay. So if you can't quantify, it may be that their KPIs are whether they're not there or they're just kind of fluffy and they're not actually impacting the business. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, there is not a person on my team that I can't see how they're making the business money. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I always tell people they either have to be impacting the revenue directly or they have to be helping remove things off of somebody's plate that must still get done. That then therefore so for instance, if somebody can remove something off of your plate, Amy, and it's very tactical, it's not really producing revenue, but it has to get done, right? It's like filing registrations or keeping those organized, right? But you are freed up to make money, then that's how I justify it. So it's either one or the other. Are they making it or are they helping somebody indirectly make more money and that helps them? So even like my assistant, I should be able to literally free that much off my plate that the extra time I have, I am literally making back the money I'm paying her.
Okay.
Okay.
That makes sense.
All right, let's do one more question.
Sure. I know you're big into mindset work. How do you feel about manifesting and thinking forward and stuff like that?
How do I feel about it? So I definitely believe in like the laws of attraction and all of those things, right? But there's more than just the law of attraction. There's the law of action. So this is where I kind of feel like, yes, I definitely have a little bit of the woo side, but I definitely have like the action, I'm a go-getter, right? So I'm a big believer in your thoughts create your actions. And I've also like knowing like the life coach school model, thoughts create your actions, but then thoughts create feelings in that model. Well, when you get into the woo stuff, a lot of it is about your feelings and the feelings create your vibrations.
Right.
So it's actually like the same thing, if that makes sense. One is just talking about it's all about your feelings and the way you're feeling and the way you're showing up and the energy is attractive or maybe repelling, right? And in the model, it's like your thoughts create your feelings and your feelings create your action. So to me, it's almost the same thing. Like I can't have a thought create my action without having a feeling.
Right.
And if manifesting is all about feelings, then the feeling is getting me to make the action, which is getting me the result. So it's like very scientific and then it's very like woo woo, but to me, they're identical. So it's like,
Right.
how could I not believe in it? Does that make
Okay,
sense?
perfect. Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It does.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Great question. I don't know that I've been asked that. All right, Amy, if somebody wants to learn more about Tiny Troops, where do they go?
Yeah, if you go to tinytroopsoccer.com/programs, you can see all the offerings we have there, my book, all sorts of stuff.
Amazing. Amy, thanks for coming on. I appreciate you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yes. All right. I hope today was helpful. Indecision, we talked about, and getting you to make faster, better, smarter moves, but then also letting that trickle down to the people you bring onto your team, right? Whether that's your social media manager, an executive assistant, your right hand, somebody that's going to start checking email, right? We need to be able to have them make decisions without you. Or what happens is you just continue to have to be involved every email, every phone call, right? It's like, oh, hey, how do I answer this? Or hey, what do I do when somebody says this? And it's like, I might as well just be in there myself, right? And I don't want you getting stuck in that rut and becoming the bottleneck. So hopefully today's training has gotten you moving forward and downloading, just hit that word decide, downloading that decision making sheet and really using it. So before you even open that, I want you to look at what is something you've been procrastinating on making a decision. Write that down. Open up that document and I want you to journal through those prompts with what you're talking about. And I guarantee you, you will be one step closer to making that decision. And the goal is to actually be able to look at that and go, I know exactly, go with your gut and know exactly what you need to do. Thank you so much. We will be back. Actually, I'll be back every single Thursday. I actually don't have a travel conflict for quite a while. So you're going to see me here every single Thursday giving you brand new content, templates, you name it. I hope to see you here in our free Facebook group, Foot Traffic Operations. All right. See you soon, everyone.